So excited.
What's
You
up,
guys didn't
Mike?
see it. What's up? But we had a countdown, and it's amazing having countdown. I don't know what it is. It's very Pavlovian, I think, honestly, is what it is.
It just gets you ready.
Yeah, it must be a good sign if it's Pavlovian, though, right?
Of course.
Because it's in anticipation of what we're going to talk about today.
I wonder if you could mix that into training. We'll have to talk about that sometime.
How do we psychologically condition our clientele? Oh, there's lots of ways, honestly. Yeah, that would be fun, actually.
Okay.
So FitQuest. What do you want to go with FitQuest first? You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Let's do our FitQuest. You can do FitQuest first, and then we're going to
Okay.
talk about optimal training, right?
Yes.
I have no idea what you mean. We're going to have to get into all sorts of definitions.
Well, there's like a subtitle under optimal training, but I like putting the optimal training out there just to be like, what the hell is optimal training? Stick around. Okay, so I already forgot. You said me first?
You first.
Okay. This is my second podcast of the week.
That's exciting.
Kind of think. I know. So I'll let you know, but I was on the Alamon podcast, which is a local photography and videography studio in Leesburg, Virginia. And they do podcast interviews with local business professionals in the area. And I heard about it. So I was like, that sounds like fun. And we did that. I did that yesterday, actually.
Okay. Was it a video, like a remote podcast, or did you go in, or how did that work? Was it cool?
Oh, no, I went in.
Oh, that's sweet.
It was a studio. Yeah, it was fun. It was funny because it felt very familiar because the color scheme where I sat was a white and green background.
Oh, perfect.
And look, if you're watching the video of the podcast right now, I have a white background here and Josh has a green background where he's at. Yeah, it just felt meant to be, basically.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was another part of the busy week. And the FitQuest has been mostly steps, a good amount of stretching for me, a good amount of my kids jumping on me this week. For some reason, I feel like they're attacking me more. I think it's because of the birthdays recently. And we also rearranged our floor in our house in our main area. So our main area always looks like a play area, basically like a kids' gymnastics area.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten more gymnastics-y, if that's a word, recently with Zena's birthday and my birthday, having outs and trying to make it so people can walk through it easily and all that.
It's funny how changing your space can increase your activity.
Yeah. I love the way that room is in the center of the house and it's the transition area too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always like that promotion of activity in that area. Sometimes it promotes my children going really feral in the evening, I think, as well. But I feel like that's going to happen regardless. So might as well lean into it at some point.
I think everybody should remove coffee tables from their living room. Like, I think that's a huge part of increasing activity is just doing that simple step and just using maybe side tables or whatever, because that it increases the floor space. And then it's just so much room for activities after that.
Right? Seriously. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I'm like, yes, please. I would. I mean, we lived in a tiny house, so there's that. So there wasn't any furniture really in the tiny house, except for the built-in bench area, basically.
Right, like around your table. We recorded a podcast last year around. Yeah.
Yes, at the table there. Exactly. And that was the main sitting area. But other than that, we still have pull-up bars in that area for that reason. But yeah, when things get really busy with me, like when I got my birthday, my daughter's birthday, friends and family's birthdays and all that kind of stuff, I tend to walk a lot more, like a lot more. like, I think we went to the museum this weekend and I got 16,000 steps at the museum, and that was all on concrete.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm doing lots of loaded carries with bags and going places right now.
People don't realize that counts as exercise.
Seriously, I haven't had a workout since last Friday. Today is actually my first day back into it, like a workout.
Are you changing that up at all? How's that looking?
No, I'm probably gonna keep it the same for now. I like it overall. Just I know what my next phase is going to be, I think, now,
Okay.
and trying to figure out how long I want to ride this one out, honestly. This one we're doing pretty well with. If I look at my notes, I've been doing I'm right around the 4 week mark.
Okay.
4 or 5 week mark. Yeah. 4.5 weeks basically right now with almost a week missed. So I still got a good 2 or 3 weeks, I would say at least with this one
Does
to,
your body generally handle like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or can it even go up to 12 weeks sometimes, just depending on what you're doing?
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would say so. But like most of the time I can do almost anything for 4 weeks.
Hmm.
I actually, when I was really trying to go hard, I noticed that I could go hard 4 weeks on, 1 week off, and just keep doing it like that, just nonstop.
Yeah.
But that was like a hard 1 week off too, in a way, like where just, it was like going through the motions, but I'm really tired. So everything's like 25, 50%, stretching a lot. And I don't really want to do it. It's like, I'm tired, but I actually, by the end of the week, I'm like, okay, fine. Let me just lift some weights at least.
It's so mental sometimes. It's
Yeah.
like a little bit of physical, but sometimes it's especially for people who have been training for so long, it just gets this mental thing. Oh, do I really want to do it still? Do I still want to do it? And it's
Yeah.
almost like you want to change it up just for fun.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, I know from experience what it feels like when I need to change it up versus when I want to change it up,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think I make the same excuses, I would say, you know, and I'm not, I like this. I still like this program too. I still think you have to like the program to an extent, or at least I do in some way, because it's not something that I'm training really hard for specific events right now. But I'm thinking about some events to train for next program, because I'm thinking
How
at events to train for in a while.
ooh, what kind of events are you thinking about?
I'm just thinking like short distance run and,
Like a 5K, something easy?
yeah, and or ruck, I would say.
Okay. Is there rucking like competitions or something like that in our area?
No, the ruck would be of my own making. I think you could say our area, but I don't want to drive an hour and 20 minutes to an event and do a whole bunch of things in an area that's less nice than the farm I live on, basically. So no,
Okay.
but 5K, I thought about that a little bit. I still even 5Ks. I don't know if I want to sign up or if I just want to go on a 3 mile, 2.2 mile run walk or something in the area. But yeah, so I don't know if it's going to be public or private.
All
So
right. I like it.
yeah, but part of it's because I was thinking of having a hiking goal. But then I'm like, but if I don't get out to hiking and I don't do the things, then that kind of fizzles real quick with me. But
Yeah.
I want to be in good hiking shape. So I was like, what's good hiking shape? And those are things that put me into make sure I'm in good hiking shape.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
I can do locally too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. That's the current FitQuest in a nutshell. Getting back into the current program after festivities and lots of other activity, basically. And
Yeah.
then planning for the hiking endurance program that's coming up next.
All right. I like it. That's a good fit quest.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. All right. All right. So that's it. Let me go then.
Yes.
Let's
What's
see.
cracking?
Kraken. So I finished my 4 months of yoga. So that's done.
Yeah.
Yep. I too had a birthday this weekend.
Yeah.
So I was like out of town for a few days and I was not working out. So I skipped a few days. So for me, that's like no comment. For me, that is like a good transition period. So I finished those months. During my outing, I went hiking. So I felt pretty good doing that. It wasn't very long or anything like that, up and down and lots of rocks and things like that. So I felt
Mm.
good. Still golfing a lot.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And I'll probably be golfing a lot for at least another month or two, I would
That was
say.
my questions. Yeah. Slow down.
As soon as it gets cold, really. That's the only thing. And then it's up to you. And now that I have a membership, that I can go play in the cold and not worry about forking over a bunch of money. And so if I want to leave or something, it's not that bad. So I hope to be
Right.
playing a lot more this winter.
Okay.
But I did just write a new program and I started it yesterday, actually. And so this program it's the start of the off season of golf. So essentially, I'm doing every other day. So 6 days of training per week, 1 day of lifting, 1 day of yoga. So basically, 3 lifting days, full body. So yesterday, I did a bike sprint um, to finish off my workout. So I think I'm gonna start doing that to try and get my that's the highest my heart rate has been in a while.
Right. And I remember a while ago, we talked about like the benefit you have noticed when you get your heart rate up every once in a while, like a high heart rate every once.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I'm really trying to add that in, and I am also lifting weight.
Perfectly into what we're going to talk about today, by the way. Just,
Sweet.
we'll circle back to that.
I am trying to lift more optimally. Like, my yoga was definitely an experiment, right? And which an experiment that I absolutely love, and I think it helped me get out of, like, my little rut at the beginning of the year,
Right.
um, and it was just super low entry to barrier or whatever you call it. Really easy to do at 5:30 in the morning, basically. But I'm doing full body lifts, that low rep and moderate weight right
Okay.
now,
Okay.
um and I'm gonna do that for 4 to 6 weeks, and then I'm gonna try and keep a similar workout program, but just increase those reps to 10 or 12 after those 4 or 6 weeks. That's gonna be hopefully at the end of golf season.
Okay.
So right now is just getting my body, back used to lifting and
Right.
squatting and deadlifts and all that kinda stuff.
Okay.
Moderate weights.
So what made you stop at 4 months, or are you going to continue in some way in like pieces, or are you going to do it by feel? What's that look like?
I'm gonna do yoga every other day. So I did yoga this morning,
You're going to do it every other day.
every other day.
Okay.
Yes.
6 to 7 days a week.
Yes.
Got
Yeah. Because I was just going by feel. And so sometimes I'll go 10, 12 days in a row of yoga and then take a day off.
Mm.
I'm going to try and stick to 6 days. So one day off, and then Sunday is my rest day, or whatever day is going to be my rest day, pretty much,
Okay.
with yoga in between. Because I still like yoga and I'm just not super motivated to work out really hard, but I was feeling just a little bit weaker,
Mm.
even though when I lifted yesterday, I felt great with moderate weights, but
Yeah.
I felt weaker in my golf swing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's technique or if that's just not squatting a lot anymore and things like that.
Yeah. There's like a balance in like explosive sports that I think you have to find between what yoga gives you and what strength training gives you. And it's hard to know when that is, I think, but you get
Mhm.
that flexibility and range of motion more from yoga, right? And you get that power and overall strength from strength training. But you need both of those. And if you get too much of some of those without as much of the other one, or say you go up in one, but then you can only go but so far before it becomes a detrimental to the game. Like you were with strength prior to this a little bit, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
you got to that point with strength, and then you're like, I need something more like yoga, and you went into the yoga, but now you're starting to feel that point a little bit with the strength. And it's also coming towards the end of the season. So that's another part of like why you're thinking of it probably.
Yeah, exactly. Because a little bit of both. And I'm going to try and actually train optimally, which we'll talk about in a little bit, over the next 6 months until the beginning of the season.
Okay.
Or more by the books
Yeah.
than just like experiments.
Got you.
And so I'm going to go through right now, getting back into lifting, then a little bit of a hypertrophy phase, and then a little
Well, we're
bit
going
of
to periodize. We're going to periodize over a macro scale, a macro
for the
program.
for the off season. Yeah. Cause
Okay.
then after that, I'm going to go into a maximal strength phase and then go into power training, a lot of power and core stuff. Then my plan is for next season, and this is all planned, right? If I don't get injured, if I don't blah, 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 if I don't get bored. And then by next season, I will have yoga in the mix and a little bit of strength training, how we've talked about in the past couple FitQuests,
Right.
but just a little bit. I'm doing a full off season, like exactly how I would train like a real golf athlete. Like I'm not a real golf athlete. I'm just like that, like a golfer.
No, but it's good because you can experience that a little bit and what
Yeah,
that feels like and looks like and how it's organized and all that. I think that's good. Yeah.
exactly. And
I
then,
like,
all right, cool. Yeah, I don't really have too much more of my fit quest. I'm just gonna full body workouts, still doing yoga. I'm not gonna do too much long distance cardio, but I am gonna do some high intensity cardio. And then
okay.
we'll see what happens. I'll probably add some walking and rucking in after a couple of months.
I like it.
Oh, and you didn't talk anything about nutrition. I have my problems when it comes to like birthday times. And
Yeah.
so I've pretty much eaten a whole cake or a cake and a half and ice cream over the past like maybe 10 days. And so I've been chilling. I'm going to go pretty hardcore on the nutrition for at least the next few weeks and then maintain my only eat sweets like at special occasions and birthdays going forward.
Okay. Do you admit, I feel like one of your kids' birthdays is coming up, isn't it? Did it just
No,
pass?
just mine. No, I'm pretty clear. I'm pretty clear until Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So you got a nice little, yeah. Yeah. I got so much coming up over the next month. It pretty much starts now. Like holiday season feels like it starts now for me a little bit, honestly,
Okay.
because of all the birthdays in September. And
Okay.
then we host our Halloween party. Then we get ready for Thanksgiving, and then there's things in between Halloween and Thanksgiving. We usually have visitors around then,
Okay.
and then Christmas. Yeah, yeah.
If you don't have too bad of a problem with your nutrition in general and you don't overdo it, then it shouldn't hurt you too much.
Maybe you just need so much. Is my point. You just need like you just need to party more, Josh, with your nutrition. So you get to the point where you're just like, F this. I'm eating whatever it feels good in terms of feels good for me. That's how I feel at this point. I'm never like a cake person, so I'm mostly joking, honest. But
Yeah, I love my
it could
I
work
ate
like what did parents used to do with cigarettes? You remember the stories about parents with cigarettes, kids having a cigarette and then make them eat all the cigarettes?
make them smoke every cigarette or make
Oh
them
my
eat all the cigarettes. That'd be horrible.
eat the cigarette. I'm dramatizing a lot right now.
So
I'm not
if
suggesting any of this. None of this is suggested.
yeah, because if someone gave me a whole cake and was like, your punishment is to eat this whole cake, I'd be like, thank you very much.
Right? Yeah. don't do what I'm saying. Do what Josh is saying. I like that. I think that's good. I think it's good to be aware of it. I think it's good to understand it and you enjoy it. So there's a point where you have to do the things you enjoy.
Yeah,
But what's the
exactly.
point if you're not doing the things you enjoy a little bit?
Exactly. But I'm pretty comfortable now, and there's no more cake in my house, so I'm good to go till Halloween.
Sweet, sweet. No pun intended.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Optimal training.
bum, bum, bum. Okay. So the subtitle for optimal training is optimal training frequency, intensity, time, and type. Or
Okay.
like, what's the right fit for you?
Ah,
FITT. Huh?
yeah.
The reason I want to talk about this is because there's a plethora of knowledge out at this point that we know and is just being talked about with different names. Like optimal training is just another name for this. Okay.
Mhm.
That help us understand what the ideal amount of work for the human body is in about a week's time, like week
Okay.
by
Uh,
week, what the ideal amount of work for the human body is. And when I say work, heart rate mostly, but also strength training and mobility training and conditioning work, like movement work, basically, at different intensities.
Alright,
And
and we're talking about over the time of a week. We're not saying like an individual day, and we're not saying the whole program.
exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been, I forget what that effect is, some German name effect when you buy a new car and then you see that same car everywhere, basically.
Is that like the Mandela?
No, Mandela is when you assume like a logo, for example, is a certain way when it looks really similar, but it's not. It's this way. And you're assuming details are there that are not, or assuming details that aren't there that are.
Okay,
Just
okay.
looks familiar. You just fill in the blanks. I think that's the Mandela effect. But basically, I've been seeing people working really hard at their goals, which is awesome, but then feeling defeated about the results they're getting. And these are people who are working hard and have been consistent and have been doing it for a while, which is all the things you hear people repeat over and over and over. All you got to do is be consistent. All you got to do is work hard, right? All you got to do is not quit, right?
Right.
And that's supposed to solve it. That's it. That's all you got to do. But I already need like three things, and that's not it.
Exactly.
They're
So
having this issue. Go ahead. What
so
were you going to say?
people on social media basically say optimal, like they are always putting out optimal training, but that's not always what optimal actually is what you're saying. And it's actually called the
Be-
Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
Bader Meinhof. Okay. See, some German sounding, right?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So I'm seeing this a lot because I'm seeing it and then it's driving me crazy because I know how these people are working out. Um, because I follow them or their acquaintances or acquaintances of acquaintances that I'm friends with on Facebook or whatnot. So it's in the circle of my network. It's not just like famous people out there or anything like that. So this is for you guys, if you're listening, by the way. I see this and then I see it more and I'm trying to figure out a way to actually help with this. And one of the reasons why they're hitting a wall so hard is because their capacity is just getting squeezed out of them by their determination, their over determination almost in a direction that if they just added some diversity and even reduce the intensity, so that way they could have a better intensity at those high intensity times. They would see
Ev-
really good results.
Everybody's trying to be David Goggins 24/7.
Yeah, this is like yeah, exactly.
The Goggins effect.
It's a little bit helping the people who've got the Goggins effect right now, which is a great mindset for a lot of things. But there's points when you progress in all different fields where the things that got you there are not the things that are going to get you to the next level, basically. And the people who I'm talking to know this, and it's you right now. So how
You,
do I break that down?
so you need a Goggins until you hit a wall. So it's funny that you're talking about this because I think a lot of people have been thinking about this a lot because of people like David Goggins and even Joe Rogan, people who are always just saying, go hard. Because
Mhm.
I had a conversation recently with somebody who is training for a half marathon and they like hurt their leg like 3 weeks ago. And then they're just like, yeah, I'm just running. My leg hurts so bad. And I just keep on running though, because that's what David Goggins would do. And I really need to train for this marathon, half marathon. And I'm just like, dude, don't know how much you're messing your legs up and other things.
What do you, why?
Why?
The only why I can think of, honestly, that can be justifiable, and maybe this is what it is. So here's the devil's advocate here, is it's a symbol for the other demons that they're battling that they need to mentally get through. And they feel like this is a strong metaphor for those demons, basically. That, which I think is the case a lot of times, honestly, either consciously or subconsciously. I think there's some obstacles that people need to overcome that they'll use physical activity as the way to ram through the obstacle.
Yeah,
While that's
there
possible, there's also a lot of times a way to go around the obstacle or over the obstacle or get a big long pole and leverage the obstacle.
goals in your life or relationships or at work or etc. do not all, even though we always say how similar working out and stuff is to other parts of life, I
Mhm,
think each one of these obstacles has its own way, like you're saying, to get over it. Use a ladder, go around it. Not
mhm.
It's not always go through, even
Right,
though sometimes that is good, sometimes it's not. And I think
right.
it's just awareness and figuring out maybe this stuff from Fit, if that works best for your particular workout scheme that you're doing right now.
Right. And so people can look this up. This is probably Fit is probably the easiest way to look this up too. So FIT, the Fit principle, their frequency, intensity, time, and type. Uh,
Yes.
And if you look that up, it'll lay out for you a general range for low intensity, moderate intensity, and high intensity movement or exercise. Okay. And those things can range from going on walks, going on jogs, going on runs, working out with heavy weight, working out with light weights, working out for a short time, working out for a long time, doing plyometrics, going golfing, all that kind of stuff.
And if you do it every day compared to every other day or what?
Right. And then what you can do is you can look at what the recommended amounts are for each intensity. Okay. And think about what kind of movements do I like to do in those intensity ranges and how can I get those in? These are the way these work. If you get this right, if you get this mix right for you and you use these ranges and intensities, it's like figuring out what's in the movement nutrients your body needs the most. Where are you deficient in your movement nutrients? And the reason it works like that is because there's certain parts of your body that run better when these movement itches are scratched or just moved in terms of getting the blood flow to certain regions, getting the nervous system dialed in, even getting the digestive system moved, basically. Like in low intensity, light walking is really good for digestion because that's something that these are things that our body evolved to get in a natural environment over a typical amount of time that we don't get. And now you need to figure out how you can multivitamin approach this versus just trying to push really hard in the thing that feels really hard, because if you do the hard things, you're going to get the results you want, which not exactly. I can go dig in a parking lot with a shovel because it's hard. But I think,
But you can
you
only
know,
do that. Your frequency would only be like once a week because your body would be so dead after that.
I think I would have some like elbow tendonitis pretty quickly, maybe, but it's hard. I'm going hard, bro. I'm doing the hardest kind of digging. I'm going to hit pavement. I'm going to hit pay dirt someday. And when I do, nobody's going to care. But
So, what's a good way to think of these 4 things? Like, because I know what you're saying. All right, and so
so
how can
trying to break this down and share it is I think it's hard for fitness professionals. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to break
okay,
it down a little bit.
all right, all
Okay.
right. So let's start a little bit. Okay,
Okay.
I'm just looking at frequency, intensity, time, type. So, how often do you exercise? That depends on your intensity, right? And that also depends on you yourself. So, this is all individualized. So, one person can go out and walk every single day for 2 miles, 7 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a very low intensity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, or for some people,
For some.
now that same person can maybe only go out and do a 2 mile run,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 or 3 times a week, not those 7 times. I think that's a little experiment
Mm-hmm.
that either the trainer or the person can do when
Right.
they think about it. And
Th-
so
Inch into inch
go ahead.
into other in that's how you inch into other ranges of intensity and other types of movement patterns.
Exactly. And how long you can go.
Yes.
Uh,
And
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 so
intensity, I think it's useful to talk about intensity because I think people don't understand intensity as much either. When we're talking about intensity, what do you think of?
that's interesting, right? How tired I am at the end of the workout.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad you said that. Okay. So I hear that a lot. And that's a point of intensity from your workout. But if I want to be really specific, it's more your heart rate throughout the workout.
Ooh, okay, I like it.
Okay. One of the things that you hear that's popular these days is zone 2 work.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's more of a lower intensity work. And people have been talking about how important zone 2 is for getting a really good aerobic base because it's really good for your heart health. And there's a lot of other reasons why that ends up being good for people because of all the other things that people do when they're getting that slow walk type of exercise, long, slow bike ride, simple backyard game type stuff, kind of things. And when people aren't getting enough of that, like nutrient wise, again, if you think of it, but that's zone 2 heart rate. Okay. The other heart rates are where you're more in the mid range of your maximum heart rate and the end range of your maximum heart rate. But people don't really check their heart rates that much. So then I like to tell people like the lower intensity, you can carry a conversation pretty well. You might be a little bit out of breath here and there, but you can carry a conversation pretty well.
Right.
Moderate intensity, you can talk, but they're short sentences and they're not flowing and it doesn't really work well because it's choppy. That's moderate intensity usually.
Right.
Just because your breathing rate is highly correlated with your heart rate. And then high intensity is don't fucking talk to me right now.
Right. I'm just trying to breathe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to breathe right now. I can't be spending my mouth time with you. That's maybe focused on breathing right now.
I used to train with a runner, uh, a lot, and I've just never been a runner, and we would always do a 30-minute jog, like, before our workouts,
Which
and
would be
he'd be
like
like
low to moderate intensity for him and moderate to high for you.
Yeah, so he'd be talking to me. I'd just like single word answers the whole time.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, that's funny. Yeah. But that's a good way to gauge the intensity with this balance that you, I don't want to say need to find, but will help tremendously if you can find a balance with these intensities and the frequency of these intensities.
Do you think starting with intensity is a good way to, if you're planning out your workouts, like knowing
Mhm.
that you'll get some low, some mid, and some high throughout your week?
Yeah, I think it does help to do that. I haven't actually thought of that until you just said that, but I really like that idea a lot. Like just categorizing things as this type of intensity. What kind of intensity is this workout? What kind of intensity is this workout? And am I hitting? That would be a fun wellness challenge, Josh.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. So you could just have a list of high, moderate, and low intensity check-ins. And just put it on as a check-in every day. And then just have people check in for if they got a high, moderate, or low intensity workout in.
I like it.
And I would think you would want to incentivize low intensity, under incentivize high intensity.
Good ideas for your next
Ah,
challenge, Emily.
whoa. Okay. Okay. All right. I hope I remember that. I will, because it'll be in the podcast.
Woo!
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Which is out on Spotify and Amazon Music and on
And
YouTube, by the way, and
uh,
Apple.
or Apple too. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Everywhere. Everywhere. So okay. So we talked about frequency, or did we talk about No, we didn't talk about frequency. We talked about intensity and type, I would say. Frequency, intensity, type, time. So we got time and frequency to go over still. We're jumping around.
Yeah, that's all right because they're all correlated. So it really
Yes.
depends on
They all affect each
where
other.
you start.
And that's what I want to talk about at the end of this a little bit is how they affect each other and how you can plan this for yourself and how I would plan it for people as a coach. But frequency is the amount of times you do that intensity or type throughout the week.
Okay.
So if you're doing it 1 to 2 times a week, that's usually a high intensity type of workout.
Or it could be, or it should be, maybe.
Yeah, you don't really want to go over. I said that weird. You don't really want to go over 2 days a week of true high intensity work. And usually you don't want to go over 20, 30 minutes with those sessions, but that's assuming 20 to 30 minutes is it's you in that higher heart rate zone, basically.
Right.
Which usually they're not. Usually there's like a warm up and then you get into that higher heart rate zone for 15 minutes. And a lot of times 10 minutes is fine for people getting started. Like you can do less of these ranges when you're getting started too.
Oh, yeah.
This is just the maximum basically that you want to do. So that one I point out first and I think part of the problem is I point out that first to the high intensity lovers and they're like, what? How? No,
Because how
you know,
many people do you know do hit workouts 5 times a week?
but you know what I wonder? I wish we could do a study on this. I wonder if they're really at a high intensity heart rate for that long throughout the week. If we took their heart rate, like some of them probably wear heart rate monitors. And if we looked at their heart rate monitor, how many minutes during the week were they actually in that high intensity heart rate range versus were they in that moderate to high range, like touching high, but mostly moderate? Because I think most of them are in those hit classes a lot of times, you know?
Yeah, they're a little lower than they think.
Yeah, but they're still probably getting a little bit too much high intensity
Right.
over time. So they're probably in I bet you if it's the person we were talking about earlier, like the avatar we were talking about earlier, if it's someone like that, I bet you they're in like the 40 to 60 minutes of higher heart rate a week, you know,
Mhm.
where if they just got that down to 40, maybe at first, they could feel a benefit and maybe get it down to 30 and then keep it there twice a week, a total of 30 minutes in the week.
Exercise is so much like medicine and getting the right dose that, but you have to be the one, if you don't have a trainer, like you have to be the one that really focuses on how you feel after and during your exercise so that you are able to adjust the intensity or frequency or time or type.
Right. And if you don't notice that, right now you're noticing the results, if that makes sense. Right. So you're not getting the results that you want. So it's probably because those things need to be noticed more, I would assume, or they need to be adjusted more. I'm
Right.
assuming.
And not always go harder. It could be adjusted the opposite way too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. During the lead without being super obvious, but I guess it is. Ish. Um, yeah. So that's the high intensity frequency. Okay. So 1 to 2 days with a total of around 20 to 40 minutes. Okay. But you can definitely do with less than that, especially if your moderate intensity isn't at its peak, which is usually about 2 to 4 days a week of moderate intensity. And then the last one, which is low intensity, you really want to do 5 to 7 days a week. Most days of the week, you want to get some good low intensity work. Now, that doesn't always mean you have to devote that time to it if you're on your feet a lot. Because if you're on your feet a lot, then I have actually had people who are doing too much low intensity. And those are usually people whose jobs make them walk a lot for whatever reason.
So would you be saying that if they're walking around too much during their job or whatever, that the high intensity stuff, since they have too much low intensity, then the high intensity and moderate intensity messes with everything?
Yep.
So like they almost don't need as much of that moderate or high if their jobs or whatever they're doing on a daily basis is too much already.
Any of these intensities, if you're going over with them, you're going to have to take something from somewhere else,
Right.
basically.
And so
Um,
something like a job you can't control all the
right.
time.
Exactly. So that's why optimal, when we were talking about this before, is so relative to the person who's looking at this. We're just giving you vitamins that we know the human body needs to get, and then we're trying to figure out like where are you deficient in these vitamins, where are you getting too much of these vitamins, for example, or these doses, and these dosages are not in the right place.
I liked what you said. You didn't say it, but you said it's on a spectrum from ideal to like your actual reality. And sometimes like things like work or whatever is your actual reality. So you might not be able to have the completely ideal or optimal fitness routine, but that is actually optimal for you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny because we've been talking about this for over a month now behind the scene. And I remember when I first pitched this to you, you were like, "Oh man, all right, we'll see." And over time, it's been good because I've been trying to figure out how to communicate it better. So I've been like throwing different things at you and trying to figure out how to communicate it best to you,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. And I think we finally gotten to that point now where we're on a similar wavelength with it.
I think it really makes sense because when you first say optimal training, and maybe other people think this too, is like when you see somebody on social media say squat is the best exercise ever, and then that triggers in your mind that's optimal training, and you just put squats into your training without thinking about it. You're like, oh, that's optimal now, and I
Yeah.
don't think, and I think that's what a lot of people think is optimal, and that's like a Goggins effect. They think that is optimal training, but it's just not. Like it's all these things in fit, and it's a balance between putting those up and putting them down and playing with it over time and changing over time, especially if your frequency changes. Because how often do you have new things to do, or you go out of town for 5 or 6 days and your frequency changes, and all these things are always changing. And I think just being aware of, I really like using something like fit for somebody who is at any point in their fitness journey, because they can use those to balance everything out.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to give people that toolbox and some general, I don't know, procedure for using that toolbox, a little bit of guidebook, a little bit for using
Yeah.
that toolbox, because that's the toolbox I go back to really often. Because when you get, so when you're on the unideal side of that optimal training, okay, it's harder to get all the typical results people ask for, basically. Like, I want to feel better. I want to move better. I want to be stronger. I want to have less body fat. I want to have more energy. I want to sleep better.
All at the same time, Mike.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. I want all those things. And I want to be ready for my wedding or my friend's wedding in 3 months.
Go. Make
Go.
magic.
And I don't have that much money. I think that's all the typical. That's not as much as it goes.
Right.
So yeah, when you're at that lower end of the spectrum, it's going to be harder to get those results. But if you're not doing a lot and you start at the lower end of the spectrum, you're still going to get a good amount of those results in small little pieces, basically. But it's harder when people get past that beginner phase where they do something and they feel results quickly. When they get into that, like closer to that intermediate phase, I think. And this is more for the intermediates, I would say, than it is for the beginners strategy. But what's nice is I think we're getting a lot more health and fitness literacy these days because there's so much options and media and ability to learn things. And some of those things aren't always the best things to learn, but at least we have the option, I guess. Oh, I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Because when you're a beginner, you don't have much place to go. For instance, I can walk every day, like probably 5 miles with no problem.
Right,
Where as a beginner, they might struggle to walk a mile every day or every other day.
right.
And so you just don't have the amount of options to change intensity and change time and change type, because
Mm-hmm.
they're just trying to make it from the couch to the driveway, down the block and back. And then so the intermediate or advanced have more play with where that can go.
And I would say this is a strategy that will get a lot of people from intermediate to advanced,
Oh
or at
yeah.
least like the next level of intermediate.
At least understand it, because I think you're right. The beginner can just do whatever they want a lot of times and they'll see results until they hit that wall. And then they need some structure, like using this FIT acronym, to be able to advance a little bit more.
I think the only thing we didn't talk about was time. And that's really just like the amount of time you're in that heart rate zone. We talked about it a little bit,
Okay.
but for the different intensities, there's different recommended amounts of time. And these are recommendations from places like the American Heart Association, the National Institute of Health, like all the major health organizations, and even a lot of the influencers these days will even make these recommendations. So take your pick on which side of the spectrum. But there's pretty broad agreement on these recommendations, basically.
What is it? 150 minutes of low intensity, I think, is what the American Heart Association recommends per week.
150 of moderate intensity.
Moderate. Okay. Moderate. Yep.
Moderate. Yep. And that's per week. Yeah. If you do for example, for moderate, using the FIT model, you want to do 2 to 4 days of moderate, workouts for 20 to 40 minutes or greater than or equal to 30 minutes.
Okay.
So that's getting you close to that right there. Basically.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing all the other things like the low intensity and the high intensity, all these things get you in the range of a lot of really well-researched recommendations when you do these. They all mix very nicely together and fit very nicely together, which no pun intended. And once you figure it out, you can, for example, I had a lot of low intensity with my FitQuest this week, right? So I wasn't able to handle my moderate and high intensity very much this past week. I did a good amount of mobility work. Did a little bit of strength work. Oh, I did like a medium workout on Tuesday. Did a medium workout on Tuesday. I
Okay.
think 2 rounds versus 3 rounds, and moderate weight versus going up to a little bit heavy in some of them.
How'd you feel in the workout since you had so much low intensity? So before that.
Yeah. Yes. I felt like it was hard to get my adrenaline into the workout as much, if that makes sense. Like, it was hard to get hyped into it. Like,
Yeah.
didn't matter the playlist as much, or even if I did get some good songs going, like, it would drop pretty quickly. So I was like, all right, I'm not forcing this because I don't have it felt I just didn't have that much in the tank,
Your
basically.
CNS was drained almost from
Yeah,
all that
absolutely.
low intensity.
I think my CNS was drained, and a lot of it was because of low intensity, but a lot of it was from chasing little girls around at the Air and Space Museum, and then also having a party, cookout, bonanza, basically.
And so we don't even go into mental stress as much,
Mhm.
but I know dealing with kids. I hate saying dealing with kids, just like having kids and being with them all the
Being
time,
responsible around children.
being responsible around children, that drains you a lot too. Where
Mhm.
going into your physical pursuits, your exercise and whatnot, can definitely have a factor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and work drains people's brains as well,
Oh,
They say something's coming up with the work deadline or whatnot, and your nervous system is beat up.
yeah, you know that exercise is going to be not going to feel as good during the
Mhm.
week, but so you just need to what? Figure out what would somebody have to do at that point? Figure out the intensity that they need if they're in high stress mode.
Mhm. Modulate their intensity through the week. Yeah. So, like, I forgot I did do a strength workout, but I did, like, half of my usual intensity in that workout. I went through the motions kind of thing,
Yeah,
strength workout. And that was good. That felt good. And I feel like excited to do my workout today and actually go into it today, for
good.
example.
And so you were probably higher stress going into that workout, but getting through it, even though it was a lower intensity workout and maybe less
Mhm.
time, also.
Right.
It gave you like a mental boost, even and just a little tiny physical boost, but it gave you
Mhm.
that mental boost to know that you'll get through it, and then your next workout you'll crush.
Right. And that's like the pushing, like, through the obstacle, but it's a very light push, which then I feel like the obstacle analogy doesn't work as well. You know, it's almost, no, I feel like I'm dying on the battlefield basically, and they're about to cart off the dead. And you just raise up your arm. You're like, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. And you're just telling your body, like, I'm going to get back into it. I'm here. That's what it feels like when you're doing
Yeah.
those kind of, it's not as much like I'm trying to, like, force myself into it and I got to do it because Dave Goggins says there's no quitting me, sir. But
Ugh.
maybe that's a me thing. Maybe that's a me thing.
It's like you
I
need the
think
Dave
it,
Goggins mindset to get you to the workout, and then once you're in the workout, you need to go to, I don't know, like a completely different mindset, like your
you got to
own.
go to there's a surfing mindset. I feel
Oh,
like,
yeah. Just ride the
you know,
wave.
ride that wave, ride it well, hang some 10, take some risks if you want to every once in a while. But,
Sure, sure.
excuse me, I just swallowed. I feel like something, but I also feel like nothing, and I'm out of water. Oh no, I have water.
Does that mean the podcast is over, Mike? Do we have anything how do we wanna finish this? Anything else to say about fit or
I think we got all the things I wanted to say about it. I'm very happy with, actually, and I'm gonna try and remember that idea we had. I'm gonna write that down, actually. Stay
alright?
tuned for a possible wellness lunch. Yeah.
Sweet. I like it. Alright, that's optimal training then.
All right. I'm gonna say peace out. Thanks for
Alright.
listening.
Yep, thanks for listening. See you guys. See you, Mike.
Deuces.
Peace.